welcome back to Cafe UEL, your first academic podcast where you can hear directly and exclusively from your professors and module leaders. Today, we have a very special guest, we can say a celebrity actually. She is an award-winning senior lecturer in business psychology. Her LinkedIn is very rich, so please make sure you check it out before enrolling to the course. We do have Dr. Sonia Dineva with us. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation, and thank you for being here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It's wonderful to be here and to share so many wonderful things with you.
Oh, that's my pleasure, actually. I am so excited to have her here because I've already had a session with her previously and it went incredible. So I can't wait for her to share more information with you guys so you can know her more. For our first question, I would like you to introduce yourself, but in only one word. What can you say about yourself?
This is so difficult. Wow. Okay, just one word. Passionate.
Passionate. Wonderful.
Yes, I'm really passionate about what I do. Just for the sake of clarity, occupational psychology is the same thing as business psychology.
Right.
So every time I mention occupational psychology, I will mean business psychology as well, and this means the application of everything that we know about psychology to the world of work.
Wonderful. Sounds exciting, as you can see. Can you please tell us why have you chosen passionate as a word? How does it describe you?
Probably because I'm very emotional. I wake up with a smile on my face.
Oh, that's amazing.
Thinking that I love being alive. I love living in this world. I love all the people that surround me. I feel lucky and I feel very grateful, and then I'm really passionate about what I do.
Wonderful. I mean, with a professor like this, you will always feel happy in your course, trust me. Trust me, if she's smiling at you, then you'll definitely be happy while having your classes, so wonderful. Yes. Can you please tell us more about your current research? What is your current research interest?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So do you have 3 hours?
Yeah, go for it.
So my problem is that I'm passionate, and I'm not only a lecturer and researcher, but I'm also a practitioner.
Wow.
And because of this, I get to practice what I preach, and business psychology can be applied to everything that we do at work.
Yeah.
So literally, there are so many things that we do, and I'm fascinated by all of them.
Yeah.
That's my problem.
Wonderful.
So I'll give you a very brief overview. It won't be enough at all. But okay, so the first topic that I started with was burnout.
Yeah. The famous one? Yeah.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. This is what happens to every researcher. They start with a topic that they have a personal interest in.
Yes, indeed.
Just because we're here, we psychologists claim that we want to help other people, which is true, but first and foremost, we want to help ourselves.
Exactly. And it should come within, exactly.
Exactly. So we are studying psychology because we want to help solve our own problems. Mm-hmm. My problem was with burnout.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know what burnout is, this is something horrible.
Yeah.
So waking up with the thought that you hate life just because you have to go to work.
Oh, yeah.
And being really exhausted, emotionally exhausted, because of the very thought of going to work. Mm-hmm. And then going to work and being cynical towards everything you have to do, towards people that you have to meet. It's something that is really terrible to experience.
Indeed, yes.
And people usually get to the point, in these severe cases of burnout, people get to the point when they don't experience any sense of accomplishment. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they lose their meaning, and not only in terms of their work, meaning of life.
Yeah, indeed.
And sometimes people get suicidal. So unfortunately, this is very bad, and statistics show that 80% of people who experience burnout and then don't solve this problem on time get suicidal.
Oh,
that's severe.
That's horrible, yeah.
So this is where I started from.
Wonderful. That's
burnout.
Amazing. Yeah.
I wanted to solve this problem, and then we've been studying burnout for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, okay, what is my problem? What is it that I don't know based on everything that I've read? And I got to the topic of empathy.
Yeah.
Because I'm a very empathetic person.
Oh, wonderful.
And, they say that it's good to be empathetic, especially in helping professions where you actually get to put yourself into other person's shoes.
Yeah, and where there's a contact, exactly.
Exactly. So they say that this is good, and in fact we need it. Otherwise, we won't be able to be good at our profession.
True. Yeah.
But I wanted to find out whether empathy could lead to burnout.
Wow.
What do you think?
Fantastic. That is actually inspirational. Yeah.
What would your hypothesis be?
Maybe because you're empathetic and you're trying to be good with people and you're not getting maybe the same in return, it will actually create burnout.
This is what I thought as well.
Yeah.
And then I started doing research and I found the opposite.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Empathy can actually protect us from burnout.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I was like, oh, how is this possible? So I wanted to know more about this, and I started exploring different aspects of empathy. So the results weren't conclusive. Some of them were insignificant. Other results were really surprising, and I was like, how is this possible? So I'm still researching the topic.
Wow.
But it seems like the more empathetic we are, the more pleasure we derive from this relationship. Being with people, not only our colleagues, but with clients as well, and customers and so on.
Yeah.
So in fact, it can protect us.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So
empathy is the solution then.
Yeah. Especially, they talk about helping professions, and especially doctors and nurses.
Right.
Have you seen an old doctor or an old nurse who lack empathy? They're like so used to watching people suffer that they're like,
yeah, they're just tired of it.
Yeah. They just take it for something normal.
Yeah.
The problem with this is that they lose their sense of empathy.
Wow, very interesting.
And then many of them experience burnout. So in fact, I was thinking that probably we could come up with an intervention, because the point of research is to change lives. It's not only to be in a lab and create some knowledge for the sake of creating it. It's about putting everything to practice. So I've been thinking about interventions that could possibly help with that.
Yeah.
And help people maintain or even increase their empathetic levels without self-harming.
Exactly, because when you self-harm yourself, you can harm other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. This is only about burnout. And I can tell you so many other things.
Wow, I mean, I'm so into the conversation already, so you can imagine our students, they would be very interested in this.
Yes.
And the topic is broad and wide, so you can find more solutions and more details into it.
Yeah.
Which is a great thing.
Absolutely. I'll just give you a few more examples of my research interests. So empathy was the one that I started with. Occupational stress. I'm pretty sure that everyone can relate to this.
Yeah.
Stress at work.
Yeah, indeed.
Every single person has experienced this.
Yes.
And so I went from the topic of occupational stress to burnout and empathy and so on. And then I started exploring human factors.
Wow.
Human factors is a whole huge discipline within the domain of occupational psychology. Human factors is also called ergonomics or applied experimental psychology. And it sounds really weird. Create Frankensteins or whatever. That's not the case.
Right.
This is basically to apply psychology to change the way people interact with machines at work, or to change their working environment. It can be the layout of the room, or it can be the working conditions, the ventilation. It can be the level of lighting. It can be anything. Also shift work, teleworking, working from home or remotely and so on.
Exactly, the new normal.
Yes, exactly. So all of these fall within the scope of ergonomics or applied experimental psychology. And I started thinking about applying this to solve some problems related to occupational stress. So I started exploring the effect of work schedule control. The control that we have, the amount of control that we have on when we work, how much we work, and where we work from.
Wow.
perfect freedom.
Yep.
So I wanted to know whether this would have an impact on something that we called flow at work.
Oh, yes, yes.
Flow is the opposite of engagement. So with burnout, we have total disengagement from work. With flow at work, this is something that I experience when I teach.
Okay.
So this is a very immersive experience where you get to like your job so much and the tasks that you have to do that you get immersed into them and you forget about everything.
Wow.
You don't feel the time passing by. You enjoy this. You have this intrinsic motivation, and you lose yourself into this task.
That's what everyone wants to feel actually at work.
Yes. And I wanted to find out whether our control over when we work, how much we work from, and where we work from would have an impact on flow.
Brilliant.
What do you think was
Burnout?
my finding?
Maybe burnout would be the...
So imagine a situation where we would have perfect control over these three variables.
Would it be chaotic? Would it be... What do you think?
Most people assume that if you are able to decide when we want to work and we have a really nice time when we are off work, and then we have this flexible schedule which is based on our own needs.
Yeah.
Most people assume that this will be perfect.
Yeah.
And then we'll go back to work perfectly restored.
Yeah.
And then we'll feel great. And we won't experience burnout, everything will be perfect.
It's not the case.
I found the opposite. Surprise!
Exactly, yeah.
The thing is that, you know what I found? Obviously, this is something that fluctuates over time. But I found out that when people have the perfect freedom to decide when they want to work and how much and where to work from,
They would not work.
so, they have a lot of fun in their own time. And then what happens is that they don't want to go back to work.
Yeah, makes sense.
Surprise!
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing. So, in occupational psychology, we try to not take sides, but we try to find this really thin balance between the interests of the organization and the interests of its employees.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that these are aligned.
Exactly. Too much perfection does not work anyways.
Yeah. But then people say that they want their needs to be met. So we have to make sure that we find a way around this. To give people what they need, but at the same time make sure that they will not stop working.
Exactly. And give what the company needs.
Yes. Because if a company doesn't make a profit, or if it's a charitable organization, if they don't achieve their goals and milestones and so on, then they will cease to exist.
Exactly.
People want to have a job.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like a reciprocal kind of relationship. So it's just like give me, I'll give you, etc. So it should be a balance.
So difficult. And these are just two of the topics.
Wonderful. So you can see how rich it is, and Dr. Sonia will be able to give you more details into it once you enroll to the course. Brilliant. I believe you have already answered our next question, which is how does your research contribute to the program you're leading? So you have already mentioned what are the research interests and how you can impact them into the business. So I believe the questions is already answered, but do you want to add anything to it?
Oh, yes. Thank you for asking. So in fact, my whole teaching team comprises of people who are researchers and practitioners.
Yeah.
So we bring all of our knowledge and expertise and experience to the table.
Yes.
And when we teach, not only do we use our knowledge from research, but also we try to make sure that we share all of these tips and examples from our own experience. And sometimes we practice this with our students.
Wow.
So I'll give you an example. One of my many research interests is related to the concept of psychological flexibility.
Wow.
Do you know what this is?
No, not really.
No? Then let me ask you a question, all of you. So, have you ever faced failure?
Yes, definitely.
Of course.
As a student, we do, of course.
Of course. And what is your usual reaction to that?
Frustration?
Yes. if you could close your eyes and capture a negative thought when you experience this frustration, what would it be?
Just leave everything, leave it at once and not going back to it.
Yes. Give up.
Yes.
Or I'm a failure. Right?
Disappointment, yeah.
Yes. Psychological flexibility is something that can help with that.
Wow.
So I'm not trying to disqualify the other approaches that we have in terms of cognitive behavioral therapy and so many other therapies there. But psychological flexibility is something that is currently being researched because it's quite trendy.
Wow.
And this is basically an easy solution to this problem.
Yeah.
Because quite often people focus on this negative thought and emotion, and they identify with this negative thought, and then instead of moving on, they just stop and they give up.
Yeah.
Or that everything that they see is through the prism of this negative thought. And for example, they graduate successfully and they have to go seek a job. But what happens is that the only thing that they think about is I'm a failure.
Yeah.
So I won't be able to get a job. Everyone will laugh at me. I'm a fraud, the imposter syndrome, and so on.
Yeah.
And psychological flexibility helps us in a very easy way to move this thought, so to accept it. Instead of fighting with it, instead of trying to suppress it, because this doesn't work.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
from physics. The more energy we apply to suppress a thought,
It does not. It goes up. Yeah.
exactly, we give it energy, so it finds a way to penetrate this. And then you can imagine what the outcome is. So with psychological flexibility, we just accept that we have this negative thought, and it helps us put it aside.
Yeah.
Some very simple techniques, we're still researching them.
Wonderful.
But we put them aside and then we move on. Whatever setback we may experience, we just teach individuals how to accept what they feel. First of all, to be mindful about it and to be open to it. So they need to understand that they're having a problem. And then how to put it aside and carry it lightly.
Brilliant.
So they can all go out there and be successful.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And we do this with our students. We
Wow.
teach them how to be psychologically flexible. Another thing, for example, is another research interest of mine. It's related to artificial intelligence.
Oh yes, yeah. The topic of today.
Yes. So a few years ago, I came up with the idea of integrating artificial intelligence with business psychology.
Wow.
And every time I have classes with my students, I talk about that and I encourage them to think more about the possible ways to integrate artificial intelligence into everything we do.
Yeah.
So I encourage my students to become entrepreneurs.
Why not? Exactly. Yeah.
This is what research is
Exactly.
for.
Imagine more like different professions and different disciplines.
Yes. So we use all of this knowledge for many purposes.
Wow. Brilliant. That's wonderful. As you can see, more details are coming out, and as Dr. Sonia definitely promises you to have more fun while studying. As you can see, I'm enjoying the conversation already. We would like you to give us maybe an idea about what kind of assignments or what kind of examination the students would be once they enroll for the program.
Another surprise here. No exams.
Yay!
Everyone loves this.
Yeah.
So in my history of speaking to students, there was just one student who told me that they didn't like the idea of not having exams.
Wow.
And I was like, there's something wrong with you. All of them, 99.99% of our students love it.
Wow.
Because all our assignments are practical.
Brilliant. What's better than this?
Yeah, so what we do is to ask our students to apply everything that they've learned to practice. And the reasons for this are, first of all, we want them to work in groups, because this is very important.
Yes.
And we want them to do this important networking because we have some very important people on the course.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention who they are, but I've already had quite a few success stories.
Wonderful.
Because of that.
Yeah.
Important people offering jobs
That's
to their peers.
Yeah.
So we ask people to work in groups on these practical assignments, and they replicate what occupational or business psychologists have to do in real life.
Yeah.
Because we want to make sure that, first of all, this is a very effective pedagogical practice.
Right.
Have you noticed this? Once you graduate or once you complete a year of your studies, you don't actually remember what you've studied.
Oh, trust me. Yes.
You remember what you've done for your assessment.
Exactly. Definitely, yes.
And this is what research says as well. This is a effective pedagogical practice.
Brilliant.
So what we do is to ask our students to work on these practical assignments together, and then we ask them to create a portfolio.
Wow.
So when they go out there, they can actually find a job.
And they can interpret what they're doing while they're studying, exactly.
Yes.
Without waiting to find a job, they can still do it while they're still studying.
Yes.
And practice.
We have so many students who have already been successful because of that.
That's wonderful.
And for my module, for example, what I ask my students is to replicate the actual recruitment and assessment process for an occupational psychologist and go through these process.
Wow. Like it's just like reciprocal, as we said. It's for you and for the person that you're treating.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So we give them a lot of feedback, and they know whether they're doing well and what they need to improve on.
Wow.
And once they graduate, they're there.
You're ready.
Yes.
You're ready for the workforce.
Yes.
That's brilliant. What's better than that? As you can see, this is such a great topic to discuss and also to know more about. In terms of studies, we would like you to give one piece of advice to students who are willing to join your program. What can you give them?
First of all, you have to, probably this will sound bad, but you have to know that this is very intensive.
Yeah.
And I always tell my students, if you have a drop of potential, we will make sure that we squeeze it out of you. It is very intensive.
Yeah, indeed.
But what you will get out from our program and from my teaching team is a lot of support. We will literally grab you by the hand from day one. You know, I usually tell this to my students at the end of the induction day. I tell them, welcome to my UEL MSc family.
Oh, that is so sweet. That is true.
This is what it feels like. It's like a family. And just like with family, you may leave the family nest, but this relationship will still stay.
Yes, indeed, yes. Many students have contacted their tutors and professors after graduating to just tell them that I have found a job, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and they can even collaborate in the future. So
exactly.
It's wonderful.
This is what our alumni do. I have weekly meetings with alumni.
Oh, that is
They
nice.
come to me to ask me, for example, they have clients of their own, so they need my advice on how to approach certain situations, or they seek my help with regards to looking for a job or attending job interviews and so on. So I help them with everything, and it's like a family.
Yeah.
So we support them. In every single step of the way, we're there to support them.
Indeed, that's wonderful. And you heard that. If you're interested in psychology as a program or business psychology as a module, make sure you enroll for Sonia's program, and she will be there with other colleagues to help you. Thank you so much for coming today. I really don't want to end the podcast. I'm having so much fun, and the conversation is really nice, and I don't want to end it. But thank you so much for coming today. Thank you for your time and for the valuable information. If you need any help or more details about the program, you can either contact us through Instagram or contact Dr. Sonia directly via email. Thank you so much for your attention today.
Thank you very much for watching this podcast. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you for coming today. Thank you so much.
By the way, my email address is s.dineva, D-I-N-E-V-A, at uel.ac.uk.
Perfect. So you got that. Make sure you contact her if you have any questions or any further, if you need any further assistance. Thank you so much.
Thank you.